most convincing story that maps onto reality, and that's why the central narrative is falling apart.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
We must see the central narrative for the fiction that it is. We are Americans.
While elections are sometimes messy, this was a secure election.
The founders began the fight for human liberty and self-governance, and it's up to us to finish the job.
I tell you what, we are in a truth emergency right now.
This is the end game.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you. War.
Quite sure he's right. An obsessionally neurotic. Pretty dangerous, in fact.
Do you mean you doubt your powers to convince him?
Worse than that. What I'm afraid of is his power to convince me.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it.
Sweetheart, be reasonable.
Oh, man, I'm blurry. Give me 1 second, then I won't be blurry anymore. I thought I had everything. But there I was, blurry. I hope you guys like the addition of Sam Kinison and Rodney Dangerfield. My old college roommate, whenever anyone wouldn't answer a question as quickly as he wanted, and he was waiting for them to answer, he would eventually get frustrated and go into that movie quote. And it used to crack me up. And yeah, one of my friends today was getting nervous about saying something online, which is an entirely foreign concept to me, apparently. All right. So what do we have going on today? First off, it is Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, the 1379th day of dystopia. I'm your moderator, Chris Paul. Let's be reasonable. Should we start off with the garbage story? I don't want to focus a whole lot of time on this because it's so stupid, but narratively effective, whether or not it is correct. So let's go ahead and hear Joe Biden. By the way, it's worth saying Kamala Harris was supposed to be giving her big speech last night, her closing argument speech. They try to make all the things Kamala Harris does sound like they're these big, important events. Oh my gosh, there's a countdown to Kamala Harris's town hall with Anderson Cooper. Oh, she's going to speak at the same location Donald Trump spoke at on January 6th, 2021. She's going to make her closing argument, her unifying closing argument, right where Trump caused so much division. The very violent insurrection was sparked by his words at that very location. Hopefully she can redeem that spot on the ground in that weird pagan city that is shaped like an owl and has an ellipse because they worship the penis god? Gosh, man. So Kamala went to a very special location. She gave a very, very special speech. And right behind her, supposedly, in the White House, as if Joe Biden, who hasn't been at the White House in the last 4 years, just showed up there during Kamala's special moment. And so he's on like a Zoom call with Voto Latino while Kamala Harris is giving her big speech. Why isn't the president of the United States of America at Kamala's big speech? These things are impossible to answer. There's no reason for it. So Joe Biden was on a Zoom call while Kamala was giving her big speech. And then he said this.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Tina is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Now, I don't actually believe he was at the White House, and that room could be any room. I think they had apartments that looked like that in LA. I once toured an apartment with a fireplace that looked just
Puerto
like
Rico, where I'm
that,
in my home state of Delaware.
I mean, listen, maybe that is very fine. What would it be? 19th century craftsmanship? When was the White House built? This fact of American history is not coming immediately to mind. When was the White House built? Tell me, machine. 1792. So the late 18th century. That might be late 18th century fine craftsmanship right there. Or that could be somebody's apartment in LA. They tossed an American flag behind him. That is some sort of gold fringe. It doesn't look like very fine gold fringe. I don't know what is going on here. Joe Biden's, quote unquote, Joe Biden's head looks a little strange there. He looks a little flushed out by the light, which is strange for a president. Why not make him look presentable? Where is his tiny desk? How do they have him in this sort of location? Is that a broom closet? What is going on with the very real, obviously real White House that is definitely not at the fake White House across the street in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, nor is it in the other fake White House down the street? Someone in chat is asking me if I follow the chat. What an interesting question. Moving on. You understand why? Oh, baby, we're in a mood today. Joe Biden has called us garbage. Let's listen to it one more time.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Tina is unconscionable.
Now, I'll tell you what. I know that the story is Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage. That's not what he did. The apostrophe story plays. Honestly, if you listen to the grammar, I mean, I understand Joe Biden is a decrepit, senile, old pervert and racist who has made a 50-year career in politics by selling the office of the people first in Delaware and then in the White House, and, obviously in the Senate for many, many of those years. So, but that's in Delaware. Yeah, I don't know. Listen to the grammar. It's pretty clear to me that he is saying what they're saying he said, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to, I don't care about Joe Biden. I also think the election is fake. So this is just something I can analyze as a thing in the world. And I don't even have to lie about it because I don't care what the results are. Other people will lie about it and, whatever. All's fair in love and information war. But What's the point? This is a, what, 3-day piece of content? It doesn't matter. This is something that the enemy is going to use, which is why it's been such a big deal. It's not because it hurts our feelings. Let's listen to it again.
Garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscious.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is unconscionable. Sounds pretty clearly to me like he's referring to Tony Hinchcliffe. Now, if you want to say that he meant to say we're garbage and that's what it really was, okay, fair enough. He said plenty of terrible things about MAGA. He would have just had to use improper grammar in 2 places to make that what people want it to be. And again, all good. I get the meme. I get the op. All good. It's just not true. It's not real. Okay. And it's one thing that it's just, if it was just him messing up one word once and then using the apostrophe as an excuse, I totally get it. But he says his demonization. He doesn't say their demonization. You can see the context of what he's talking about.
Honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's on.
I mean, that's how I view it. And if you view it in the other way, hey man, all good. Different ops for different folks, you know? Let's go to CNN. Let's see how it is being covered in the land of the retarded. Harris distances herself from Biden's garbage comment as Democrats are privately exasperated by the president. Oh no, privately exasperated. One thing you have to be certain of is it's definitely not Kamala Harris's fault. Sure, it's going to sink her campaign, but it's because of Joe Biden again. She just can't overcome the Biden thing. That's what it's going to be when she ultimately loses by a very, very slight margin. And then they immediately start trying to delegitimize and disqualify Trump after everyone is piled in on elections being our savior and explain to people that elections are real. There's no moral hazard or intellectual hazard by taking that position whatsoever until next Wednesday. You know, never mind. You guys have heard it too many times. It really is unbelievable to me that people just refuse to focus in only on the truth rather than what they're going to get out of acting in accordance with something that is not the truth, and just see what that does. You know, I used to never understand it when I was an atheist. I was like, why would praying make a difference? Why would believing there's a God make a difference? I can't convince myself to believe these things. I can't convince other people to believe these things. A lot of people that say they believe them don't seem to believe them. Doesn't seem like God's presence in their life, their belief in him has done anything for them. And I don't think that's how you prove it, you know? Like if you try to live better according to those principles, then your life will get better. And that's all the proof you could possibly need. If you tell the truth all the time in the most direct way you can without trying to hurt people's feelings, generally speaking, your life will get better. You'll have better relationships with people because they'll know that you will tell them the truth, even when it's hard. And then you will try to talk it through with them. And when you do that, they're more likely to tell you the truth, which allows you to better steer and navigate your world. It's only a good thing, but people don't want to do it because they're like, well, I don't know, if I tell the truth about this thing, that means a whole lot of other things are wrong. My whole world's going to fall apart. No, it won't. It'll open up the doors to much more truth and much greater truth. And then you can walk through those doors and discover what other parts of your life were missing when you were not telling the truth. This has been my experience for 4 years. Now, maybe I'll hit a brick wall on that experience and turn back around and be like, guys, I was totally wrong. Don't tell the truth ever. These communists have it right. These nihilists, these scientific materialists, they nailed it. Just lie and blame it on someone else. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it. So if we are pursuing only the truth, and we can look at things in a different way, and when we look at things in a different way, trying to embrace truth and look only through that lens, it looks much different because you're interfacing with a reality that you can hold on to. Because more of it is created with truth and less of it is created with these falsities. Harris distances herself from Biden's garbage comments as Democrats are privately exasperated by the president. I already read that headline. Okay, so Vice President Kamala Harris on Wednesday distanced herself from President Joe Biden's comments that seemingly referred to Donald Trump supporters as garbage, setting off a political firestorm a week before Election Day. A political firestorm. Harris told reporters that she strongly disagrees with criticizing people based on who they vote for. Last week, she was calling us a Nazi. Asked if she has spoken to the president about his comments, Harris said that Biden called her Tuesday evening, but that the president's comments didn't come up. And why would they? The vice president also, hold on. Let's go through all her comments. I think, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. You heard my speech last night and continuously throughout my career. I believe that the work that I do is about representing all the people, whether they support me or not. Harris said on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews, very presidential. They stuck Joe Biden in a broom closet, and Kamala Harris is just traveling back and forth out of Joint Base Andrews. The vice president also repeated what she has said on the trail, including that she will represent all Americans if elected. Blah, blah, comma, blah. I am sincere in what I mean. When elected president of the United States, I will represent all Americans, including those who don't vote for me, and address their needs and desires. Okay. All right. So boring. Tell us about Tony Hinchcliffe. We got offended by a comedian. Oh, no. Okay. Walls, frustration with Donald Trump's rhetoric of division. You got to remember, we're the bad ones. We're the evil ones. We are the ones who say what we say. Walls said that Harris's remarks in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday should be the message voters focus on, noting that Harris is the candidate, not Biden. The president's clarified his remarks. What are we supposed to say about this? I always say they don't have editors. It's clear. But let's be very clear. The vice president and I have made it absolutely clear that we want everyone as a part of this. Donald Trump's divisive rhetoric is what needs to end. He called this a garbage country and continues on from the enemy within. What is he talking about? What you heard Vice President Harris say and what I say is there's a place for all of us here. And I think that's the one. She's running for president. She's making the message, and she delivered that speech on the ellipse that showed what we can be as a country. So Kamala Harris is the savior. She is the new way forward. She is the next generation. She is running a joy-based campaign, a joy-based campaign. How did I forget? Oh, a vibes-based campaign. The vibes just slipped. They were gone. No more vibes. So they just got done saying that Donald Trump was Hitler and that all of his supporters are Nazis. But Kamala Harris, she will not call us garbage. She will not call us deplorables like Hillary Clinton did. And you are getting a rerun of deplorables. Can everybody see the rerun? Of course, you all can. Can everyone listening see the fact that this is a direct rerun, as are the 10 stories we get per day on election fraud. New kinds of election fraud all across the country, smacking us in the face the same way they were in 2020. And hell, man, if I looked back in 2016, we might see them there too. But that was never a focus of MAGA because Trump, quote unquote, won in 2016. And that was that. The country believed that Donald Trump could win in 2016 because people understood that people hated Hillary Clinton. Many of us who voted for Hillary Clinton understood that Hillary Clinton was maybe a technocrat who could get the job done, but was otherwise rotten. We just thought that Trump was terrible. And I personally, speaking for myself, thought Bernie was a communist. I'd never watched Donald Trump's, I never watched The Apprentice. I hate reality television. It was a black mark for me in the book on Donald Trump that he was in a reality show because I hate reality television. Now, I thought the news was not reality television. It turns out it is. The news talk shows also reality television, and sports is a reality soap opera, an action soap reality show. And I watched a lot of sports. So I was into all those things. And of course, I was into social media and other various kinds of television. It doesn't matter what screen you're getting it through. It's all the same thing. Or, it was. Hopefully it'll be something different when it's created by individual people and not by massive corporations that are trying to sell you a version of reality that helps them acquire wealth and power. As far as the op, though, I can see why this would be an op on the side of the mainstream media if indeed their strategy is to let Donald Trump be reported as the winner by a very small amount and then set toward delegitimizing and disqualifying him. All of these things work in his favor, including the takedown of the election system. As I've said many times, it was always going to be a necessity. I thought there was a strong likelihood that they would be the ones to eventually do it. They've already gone in on the machines. They did that between 2016 and 2020. Now they're going in on every other possibility. And I don't know if we need to pull up Jenna Griswold and Jocelyn Benson in Michigan. The Griswold thing is kind of long. Maybe I'll just play a couple of minutes of it because it's just so crazy. Let's do the Jocelyn Benson thing first because Patriots in Progress clipped a nice one on that, and that'll get us right to the point. And then we'll do Jenna Griswold. I actually didn't plan to talk about these things today, but everybody's election obsessed, so I might as well go ahead and do that. Hold on, I'm just holding for processing. Apologies. Here is Jocelyn Benson.
Programming of the bats with specifically
Yes.
from Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that only caught in the past few days, and why can't it be fixed? I saw the release.
Yeah, this is a nationwide issue with Dominion voter access terminals in the counties that use them. And the voter access terminals, of course, not all the machines, just the ones that are accessible, have an issue with the straight party voting and a programming issue that's, again, affected the machines nationwide. And I think all of us that use Dominion machines were unhappy to learn about this during the testing period and as early voting began. So we're working with Dominion to seek accountability on that front, and also are working with our clerks to ensure voters are aware of this programming issue that will require them to ensure they are voting every section on the ballot.
Do you think it's a bigger issue in Michigan because we do allow voters to cross over in ways that a lot of other states don't?
Because we have straight party. It's not struck me as I've talked to my other colleagues in other states. They're just as upset about it as we are. So, yeah, or surprised, I think. Yeah.
How about that? So that last reporter asked if like how much they were worried about the problem, if it was going to present problems in the rest of the state or the rest of the states. And she basically just said that everybody's worried about it. Dominion, big problems. Who knew? Who could have ever known How is it happening this way? Seems impossible. Let's watch Jenna Griswold for just a second. I'm going to play like a couple of minutes of this. So not just a second, but this is actually a 15-minute long video. I'll drop the link in the chat in case you guys want to save it and watch it later. Here we are. Now presenting the Secretary of State of Colorado, the place known for having the gold standard in elections. That is really what they say. And she actually says it in this video. I'm not sure we'll play enough of it to hear it.
Is acknowledging that you inadvertently leaked voting system passwords by putting them on your website. Colorado Republican Party says that this was more than 600 BIOS passwords for voting systems in all but one Colorado county. Is that accurate?
That is not accurate.
How many passwords and for which counties?
So a spreadsheet located on the department website improperly had a hidden tab with partial passwords. So I think that is really important. This is not the full password to access voting equipment. At this point, we had started an investigation and actually have people in the field that have been working on this issue.
When you say partial passwords, do you mean that it had one of the two passwords required to get into the system, or it did not even have one full password?
It had one of two, and not for all voting components, for some voting components in the state.
How many counties?
At this point, Kyle, we have staff in the field looking at the situation, but we will disclose after they're out of the field. To be very clear, we do not see this as a full security threat to the state. This is not a security threat. There are two passwords to get into any voting component along with physical access. We have layers of security, and out of just an abundance of caution, have staff in the field changing passwords, looking at access logs, and looking at the entire situation and continuing our investigation.
Is it accurate that the passwords were removed from the public portion of your website last Thursday?
Yes.
How long were they up?
They were up for several months without it being realized. As soon as my office, civil servants, became aware that they were up, we started to take action. The first step, of course, was removing those passwords. I want to be clear, not all of those passwords were active current passwords. We then started working with CISA, which is the federal agency in charge of critical infrastructure, including election infrastructure, and began our investigation.
Is it accurate that you did not notify the county clerks of this breach and they found out when the Colorado Republican Party announced it today?
What is accurate is that we had began an investigation and we're working with the appropriate federal partners.
Had you announced it to the county clerks?
No, we had not. We were.
All right. So there's a limit to how much Jenna Griswold anyone can take. I mean, what a thoroughly off-putting woman. That's a nice way of saying it. That's crazy. How are you supposed to have an election like this? Just those two things alone. Just those two things alone. Nothing ever before, right? Not any of the other forms of election fraud. Nothing that anybody's researched or found out for the last 4 years. Nothing about 2020 results, 21, 22, 23. Blank slate. We had perfect elections this morning. You hear those two things from the secretaries of state of those states. And that's like, oh, no. Well, obviously, we can't have a real election like this. And it affects other states. I mean, not the Colorado thing, the Michigan thing. Just that alone should mean that not a single American would ever consider consenting to have someone govern them and make their rules, make their laws, have the ability to throw them in prison and use state violence against them. It is insane that anyone would even participate in that system, and understand that it is the participation that perpetuates that system. It doesn't matter if the television tells you that your only chance at power is to somehow beat that system. Doesn't matter. That's not your only chance at power. All of that power of the American government establishment layered on top of the constitutional republic of the United States of America, all of that is abstract power. Now, you could go even further down than that, and you might get all the way down to the constitutional republic itself. There's a level of abstraction in that power as well. But that power, at least theoretically, operating in its perfect form, would be a legitimate government by consent. And the thing we have now isn't anything close to that. So why anyone would ever allow any of these people to rule them, beyond me. It's an embarrassment. Those are not rigged this is not results. What's the right way to say it? This is not evidence of a rigged election. This is evidence of a fake election. You are seeing that the machine is not used, the apparatus is not used to count your real votes so that you can decide who is representing you. That is not what the system is designed to do. They know that. We know that. The people who get put in office by this system also know it. So all the parties that would need to believe that our elections are real and be correct and honest in that belief don't believe it. None of us are even pretending. We only believe that the people still must grovel before the government. And the government's not even legitimate. They're not even legitimately serving. If everyone just began ignoring everything they said, it could be over. If everyone went, and we don't need everyone, that's the great thing. Simply stop recognizing the power of any governments put into place by these elections, and they will go away. It's not like all these people can just remain in power if everyone knows that it is all a fraud. Operative 17 says we tried to remove Jenna, but commies in control of Colorado. I mean, are you talking about the people of Colorado? In that case, maybe that's true. But if you mean the government and the people are allowing that government to stay and they're going along with everything, then it's the people's fault. They're not going to say yes to like 3 people. If everyone's out there taking COVID tests and wearing masks, the government knows it owns you. And people are begging to be owned. Oh, please save me from COVID. That's what people are saying when they put the masks on. Well, you know, these people do know much better than us what's actually happening. They have access to the numbers and the science. So we better do what they say. It's crazy. It's crazy. Man, did someone post this link publicly? There are a lot more people watching today than normal. And sorry, guys, if I find out that someone did post a link publicly, I'm going to ban that person from being a subscriber. I mean, why would you do that? You know? Oh, you know what? Maybe it's my fault. I might have forgotten to put a paywall there. I don't think I did, but maybe I did. Anyway, hey, it's a freebie. Let's keep going. Let's keep going with this. This is an interesting subject. I don't want to spend a crazy amount of time on it because we just spent a crazy amount of time on something that I didn't think we would spend any time on, but I guess we are coming down to the end here, coming down to the wire. Let me actually just take the temperature of the chat on a couple of things. I love to know what people's opinions are, and that is why I interact so much on social media. And you will notice that most of the other people doing it don't interact on social media. So how do they really know what people are saying? Please put up a 1 in the chat if you think that there is still a chance that the fake election this Tuesday will be canceled. Not that you're predicting it to. Just, is there a chance? Or a 0 if there's no chance. WX Spin 02. CP, would you mind fleshing out that thought by ignoring it? It means it would end. It would all go away. Sorry. With regard to elections and illegitimate government trying over the people. If everybody understood that the elections were fake and everyone else understood that everyone else understood, and there was social blowback, like people would be made fun of for continuing to grovel and participate in that system, then that system couldn't tell the people that elections have been held, they chose XYZ, and now they have to be governed by these people. That's it. That's it. That's the point. Right now, no one actually cares, it seems, that they are being governed by illegitimate representatives, and they're forcing different laws on the people, and people don't know about many of those laws because they don't actually start to affect them until much further down the road, except by spending inordinate sums of quote unquote your money to create systems that will eventually be part of the whole puzzle that they've been building for so long. It seems like it doesn't matter until they try to keep your kids from going to school or put masks on you or mandate that you take quote unquote vaccines. That's not the problem. This is why people like Michael Flynn say local action with national impact, because if everybody's doing it, then it makes a difference, right? You know, I'm happy to scream into the void because for however long I'm doing this, that is how I think the job should be done. People should tell the truth, even if other people don't want to hear those things because they're obsessed with whatever's on television. They want to watch the Daily Weimar and they think the latest trans issue is what everybody's talking about. Oh my God, I got to know what's going on with the trans issue for the 16th year in a row. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how the solution comes, is people actually have to want the problem to be solved, and they have to tell everybody else about the problem and convince them, oh yeah, this is a problem. And we all actually need to speak up about this problem. And we need to say, really? You're going to go down and punch a couple buttons on an iPad at your elementary school cafeteria, and you think we're going to save the world like that? I don't know. Hey man, maybe we really are going to defeat a millennia old satanic pedophile cabal by playing with an iPad. Like just our parents driving in the car and you're like, hey, I think we're going the wrong direction. And they just hand you back an iPad and you just are like, oh my God, it's Thomas the Tank Engine. I will watch that for another 4 years. Oh gosh. And people are like, well, that's not going to work. They have too much power. Really? Well, do you have any real world evidence of that being true? No, because no one's ever tried it. Okay. Well, yeah, then you're probably right. You're probably right. They have way too much power. Just look at how much you're giving them. You agree that they are our Lord and Savior, the state. If you think everything revolves around who possesses state power at a given time, then you're going to get the hose. The Federalist from today. Block community notes we don't like. Harris campaign caught red-handed manipulating X to censor criticism. This is by an anon, apparently, who goes by Reddit Lies. I would bet my last damn dollar that this was. And yeah, this already screams out to me, hey, look at me. I'm the Twitter files. Oh, this is part 2 of an investigation. Hold on. Let's go to part 1. Pulled up the wrong thing. So this was from yesterday. The headline yesterday, the inside story of how the Kamala Harris campaign manipulates Reddit and breaks the rules to control the platform. How could they? I never thought they would do something like this. You got to love the reruns. I'm trying not to make fun of things. I'm not trying. I guess I should at least give some credence to the idea that people think it's bad to make fun of things because new people will just be learning them. And then all of a sudden, theoretically, apparently, those people are no longer going to want to learn the thing. They've woken up enough to try to find out new information. But if you make fun of them for not already knowing it in a good-natured way, telling them, oh, commie, there's so much more to discover, that is going to make them run back to the communists. It is amazing the things we can condition ourselves to believe. Oh, you can't tell this person the truth yet. They're not going to handle it well. Really? How do you know how they're going to handle it? Why do we go on this assumption that other people are going to handle information poorly? Perhaps it is we who are handling that information poorly. Perhaps we don't really believe it. Perhaps we have not substantiated it for ourselves in a way that would allow us to honestly communicate it to someone else in a convincing way. Perhaps we're focused on the wrong thing. Perhaps the problem with the normies is not that they need to hear for the 17,000th time about how Haitian immigrants are eating the dogs and eating the cats and eating the pets of the people who live there, and instead need to be confronted with the reality of their moral choices. But can't do that. Got to argue with links and sources. I hope I'm not too spicy today. We're coming down to the end here, you know? And I was hoping that people would not want to get the hose more than I am seeing people not want to get the hose. Seems like people really, really want to get the hose. Begging for the hose. Let me. Oh, there's so many things here. So many things. Okay. So we're starting here on number one. For years, many have speculated that Democrat political candidates may be filling social media with fake posts to deceive the public and make their campaigns and causes seem more popular than they are. These claims have often been dismissed, citing that Democrat voters are already more likely to be on the internet compared to their not as tech-savvy Republican counterparts. Wow. This would suggest that the constant flood of left-leaning content on websites such as Reddit was merely a reflection of the user base. However, many people simply couldn't shake the feeling that something was just off, especially in the run-up to major elections. Despite my fervent belief that something was amiss, I never had any direct proof that Democrats were actively manipulating social media. And I'm not going to go into a long thing about this, but these standards of direct proof have got to go. Okay? It's ridiculous to need a blatant admission to understand what's happening. We have to get past that somehow. This is an element of poor epistemology. It might be the necessary qualifier in a court of law, in a very certain kind of court of law, not a constitutional court of law with a jury of your peers, mind you, but just the courts they've invented so that they can control everything. That's not the standard by which we guide our lives in virtually every circumstance that matters, particularly not with our relationships, our personal lives, but no matter how much it matters in real life, in our politics, and of course we are statists, we believe the government is everything. We use this entirely different standard for proof and evidence, and our decision-making capacity, because all that ultimately matters is what decision you make. All this information is supposed to guide you in an analysis that allows you to make the proper decision when confronted with a situation where you have to go one way or another. And those situations are much rarer than we imagine them to be. There aren't that many situations where you are forced to make a choice. And if you're not forced to make a choice, why would you do that? Because you want to identify with one side or the other. That's the only reason I can come up with. If you are not forced to make a choice, then making a choice is imprudent. You can only stand to gain information over time, which would leave you in a position to better make that choice. I mean, if you think you're going to miss out on something based on a time frame, then of course make a choice. That is an element of that is a forcing function, I would argue. But man, oh man, the idea that you have to find a piece of direct proof, like you needed the Twitter files to understand that the warnings on content coming from state agencies were already a problem, that people in government were asking for censorship or justifying censorship on the basis of some random piece of statute. We have it all wrong. And I'm not saying I have it all right, but I am saying we have serious and fatal epistemological flaws that, unless they are remedied, we will not be able to move forward. And it's not even a difficult remedy. It's just saying, I'm not believing any of this bullshit that I have ever been told from all of these sources, including the entirety of my formal education. That's it. All right. It's just understanding that all of that was or could have been fake news, all of it. And the stuff that's coming in now can be totally fake as well. And after that point, then you have to start building up knowledge again. And it sucks. But these are the sorts of things we have to do. You find you don't actually have to go all the way back and unlearn everything. You just have to change the framing of things so that the stuff you do know can be seen in the light that actually maps onto reality prime and doesn't only map onto the false reality you've been presented. Dismiss all authority and march forward. Starborn says, choose Jesus. That's a great start. And then anything that's not that should be left in doubt, which means everything, which means you don't get precious about beliefs received from authority. You don't make them part of your identity so that they become hard to let go of if reality prime changes in front of you. Let's continue with this Federalist thing. That all changed 2 weeks ago. Now he has perfect proof. Apfel Harris. I don't know what kind of name this is, but an ex-user replied to one of the posts from Reddit files with a screenshot from a Discord server seemingly related to the Harris-Walz campaign. Had to figure out the operation, vet things a bit. In this case, there's a team of volunteers who spam social media with posts that specifically promote Kamabla. Then they have other users pretend to be random individuals who just happened to cross the post and decided to comment. It's no different than a shady company paying a team to write a bunch of fake Amazon reviews about their product and make it appear to be a better and more popular product than it is. And of course, they do that. They also do it on Yelp. They also censor comments on Yelp, as they did to me many times in 2020 and 2021, when places would be overrun by communists and enforcing COVID segregation and the like. And I would put those comments on Yelp, as people should, but people didn't, because they were like, oh, I can't do that. These businesses are just doing what they have to do. The businesses are allowed to do the state's bidding if the customer base is like, oh, we sympathize that the state's allowed to do that to you. We'll keep supporting you. How's this? Don't. Force businesses not to go along with it. Force people in your life to tell you the truth, and don't let them lie to you, even if it's more comfortable that way. And don't tell lies yourself. And if they call you, then or call you on it. I mean, when you do, which is what should happen, hey man, it's your turn. On Amazon, that might result in a product getting more sales in a US election. It could mean that falsely advertised candidate receives more votes, which, if you actually knew about elections, you would realize doesn't matter. This behavior is not only incredibly dishonest, but in many cases, it directly violates the terms of service they've agreed to by operating on certain social media platforms. Now, there's two policies here. The statist problem with believing that elections are real and not understanding that this is a narrative instrument to get people to believe that Kamala is popular. It's not so that they go cast their votes. It's so that their belief only goes in that direction. It adheres to the central narrative about this being a close race. And then also, of course, they are concerned with the rules of the social media platforms, as if those aren't total abstractions written in a way to protect them from liability and create the sort of platform they need to create on behalf of the state who they are acting for, whom they are acting as an agent. In part one of a 3-part series, blah, blah, blah. Reddit is broken into thousands of message boards on discrete topics known as subreddits. The politics subreddit and several others are being actively targeted by the Harris-Walz campaign with notable success. Since the Reddit astroturfing operation started, it has rapidly developed an organizational structure complete with roles for team members, spreadsheets for tracking their analytics, and key messaging to stick to when making a social media post. I found that 126 of the top 1,000 posts in the past month on r/politics, that's the message board on Reddit, were posted by official Harris-Walz campaign volunteers. Owning 1 out of every 8 of all top posts in politics is not an easy feat, and it doesn't just happen. Here's how they achieved it. Every weekday morning, Harris for President staffers like Gabrielle Lynn post the daily messaging guidance to the server's Reddit channel. So this is on Discord. It usually consists of articles and data that the Harris-Walz campaign wants to boost, as well as key messaging that their Reddit volunteers should stick to. On Gabrielle Lynn's profile, you'll see a staff icon, the blue D, which indicates she is a paid Democrat staffer. In this case, Gabrielle is a Harris for President staffer. The links compiled by official Harris-Walz staffers, along with other articles submitted by volunteers, are added to a Google spreadsheet called Reddit Organizing. Organizing on Reddit, because that's an online community. So what they need are online community organizers. Oh, it's so Obama. It almost hurts. And are they radicals? Are they radical communists? Like normal community organizers? Probably. Kamala's lead posters, people who have demonstrated a cultural knowledge of Reddit, then choose which links will resonate best with different Reddit communities. For instance, a link about how Project 2025 impacts reproductive health will be directed towards communities with young women as their primary user base, whereas news about Kamala's Fox News interview winning over swing state voters gets directed to Reddit's Democrat communities and possibly to people living in swing states. So every bit of it is orchestrated, and I'm not going to have time to go through absolutely all of this. Why is this so effective? For those unfamiliar with Reddit, the site tends to be very left-leaning, largely due to the biases of activist Reddit moderators. Here's a recent example. The following post was made by a Democrat Redditor to Texas. The call for Democrats specifically to get out and vote was met with heaps of praise and showered with upvotes. However, when the same text was posted, but with Democrat and Kamala replaced with Republican and Trump, the post was deleted and the user banned from Texas. It's unknown if Reddit is aware of the policy violations being performed by the Harris-Walz campaign. While it's possible that their accounts will be banned when their actions come to light, It is also entirely possible that Reddit is giving the Harris-Walz campaign free rein to violate the rules. In 2018, Reddit's CEO, Steve Huffman, plainly stated in an interview with The New Yorker, "I'm confident that Reddit could sway elections. We wouldn't do it, of course. And I don't know how many times we could get away with it. But if we really wanted to, I'm sure Reddit could have swayed at least this election this once." And they haven't done it before. At least they haven't been accused of doing it before. No one has noticed them doing it before. And I personally would not notice them doing it before because I don't use Reddit. Let me see if we can get. Okay, let's just touch on the X stuff from part 2 of this report really quickly. We're not doing too bad on time. Let me check out the chat. Actually, let's pause and we'll check out the chat and then we'll. I saw some Rumble rants. I don't want to ignore those. Murphster7. Chris, you must have made it public. Thank you. You have given me a chance to see what I was missing. Well, hey, you're welcome. I did that by accident. I am glad that you are able to stop in for a subscriber stream. And if that makes you subscribe, all the better. I didn't do this for that reason. And I am totally accepting at this point of having the podcast be free. I will say that I am considering changing that policy because, to be honest, I'm sick of people taking my stuff and repurposing it. And I don't know, man. If I remain censored by major platforms, and it seems to me that the op heading in that direction that I have kind of expected for a long time is elevated on Twitter. If the Kanye op is elevated on Twitter and Elon does not seem to be making the changes that I expect to come after 11/5, I might just go totally private because, you know, putting stuff out there on platforms where it will not, putting stuff out there for free, knowing that it doesn't have the potential to increase the audience. And my audience has been roughly the same size on all platforms for like 3 years, including the paid subscribers on Substack, my social media, all of it. Or maybe 2.5 years would be more accurate. That shouldn't be possible. So, you know, whatever. It is what it is. I'm just saying I am thinking about changing that because you can't give things away for free in hopes that that more eyes will see the stuff if there aren't more eyes seeing the stuff, because it's prevented from happening. And the growth on Twitter when I was on there for a year and a half, that was strong growth. Although I have to wonder if a lot of it was just bots being fed to me to make me commit to that platform for strong growth. And people don't understand the bot thing, which is really strange to me. The other day, I called out a bot thing because I made a sarcastic comment that was difficult for a machine or AI to understand. That wasn't my intent when I wrote it, although I can see why it would be. That started with Trump is literally Hitler. And so I got swarmed with bots immediately, multiple accounts that don't follow me, engaging with my post in the same incorrect manner. And then other people were piling in like, you don't know these are bots. There are not enough of them to tell. Well, maybe for you, right? If there are certain things that I just would not know at all on site because I'm not studied in them. And it's not part of the lens I always look through to notice things about a whole variety of different issues and objects in the world that I don't know anything about. So I wouldn't recognize a feature of those things immediately. Like you could tell me, like, I'm not going to recognize, I could see a classic Mustang and have no idea what year that Mustang was. And there's a bunch of people in the chat right now for certain who would know exactly what year that Mustang was because they're into Mustangs. So I would never tell that person, Oh, no, you know what? That looks like a 1966. Why? Because I have no reason to know that. So someone who doesn't actually pay attention to bot activity and has no idea what a bot swarm would look like would not know that. But I participated in that activity for a year and a half on Twitter, experimenting, taking like real life A/B tests in real time to figure out what was what when it comes to social media bots and bot swarms. Before that, I literally worked for a social media management company that managed celebrities and brands in social media. So I've been paying attention to these dynamics for years. And I would constantly mess with strangers on social media for years. I know the difference. And so to watch people jump in and defend the bot swarm, like, oh, you don't know that. They might be real people. Yeah, I know they might be real people. But this is an extraordinarily unusual behavior that the odds dictate is not naturally possible. And me, the person who pays attention to that, am willing to say that from my perspective, that's what that is. And I believe that I have enough experience in exactly this to be able to say that in a way that I am confident about and won't back off of. That's how it actually works. I don't need to prove to you that those are bots by like figuring out where their bot farm is located or where the little office that all the real people go into as they operate 50 different accounts. It is so crazy. The standard of proof is ridiculous. And the idea that people want to normie-splain to defend what they see as being the sort of behavior that doesn't rise to the level of a concern is beyond me. Look at what the world is. You should be stating what you're concerned about every time you see something that's concerning.
Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it.
Say it. Say it. When you see something that is concerning, say it. Be like, hey, man, this seems a little weird. Does this seem weird to anyone else? And if it seems weird to someone else, then maybe a lot of people realize, yeah, you know what? I've been having that same experience and it's pretty damn weird. And then maybe there's like just, a lawyer or something who sees the post and they're like, you know what? I've never thought of it this way, but they could be doing this, or a doctor or an innovator who knows about technology or whatever subject it is. And then all of a sudden you're having a real discussion and maybe people are having new insights about things they've never thought of before. That's how our system works. And I mean, our communication system. They have the machine. They have all the fake stuff. They have the algorithms. We have all the people with all the experiences and all the ability to have spontaneous human thought. And we give away that power because we're like, oh, no, the machine's probably doing it right. I don't want to concern myself with the idea that there might actually be bot swarms and that most of the internet might not exist in the way we think it does. Check into dead internet theory. There's definitely something there. As far as social media bots go, you should assume that everyone online who is an actual stranger in your real life is an actual stranger and potentially fake. And sorry if you think that that is somehow detached or maybe anti-human. It is the opposite of that. Believing that bots are humans and equating the machine to humans is anti-human. Saying that's the machine, that's the machine, that's the machine is not anti-human. And, it also means, hey, if you are friends with anonymous people online, better make sure they're actually real, because if they're not real, then that's not your friend. And if there's somebody who is pretending to be your friend and isn't, that person is exploiting you. And this also includes that in particular applies to humans as well. Miss Allie, $20. Chris, where are your previous videos on Rumble? Okay, Miss Allie, here is what to do on Rumble. So I did not realize until a couple of weeks ago that the Rumble I had been playing everything on was not technically a Rumble channel. Now I am trying to figure out how to merge that and make that happen. But in the meantime, I figured I would do the subscriber streams on the Rumble channel. You would see on past streams that it would say, I'm your moderator right under the title of the stream on your screen. rather than be reasonable with your moderator, Chris Paul. So I did this to establish the channel, see if there was some sort of difference that I could detect, because I've tried reaching out and asking. I haven't gotten a good answer. So they are still, if you search I'm your moderator, they're all still there. I don't know if there's a way that I'm going to be able to merge them. I hope that there is, because John has some relationship with Rumble, obviously. So I hope that maybe they can be merged, and then whatever the advantages of having a channel rather than a personal account are, I will have those advantages for this channel. Maybe it helps my thing get more eyes on it. And just to let you guys know, while I'm here, there is a chance, depending on how things go on the 5th, there's a chance that I might road trip to Gart and be kind of on the road for a little while, as I was last summer. Not this past summer, but the summer of 2023. If that is the case, my show is going to be more sporadic. I will be doing less of my normal show. I think that the solution is to potentially do more of these things now and having them open to people. And I'll try to figure out what to do for paid subscribers to still make that worthwhile. I hope people are just supporting out of their interest in supporting the show. But I still do care about doing something extra for paid subscribers. But the point is, there's going to be election bullshit information coming in all day long and all night long. And though I will be on the road and not at my normal home studio, I will be listening and taking in information the entire time. So I will want to get some of that out and have these discussions. And so I will probably do live shows, because then that engages the audience. I can go through things just straight through, rather than the painstaking amount of time it takes to do the show the way I normally do it now. And I think that it's probably going to be more of that into the future, and then also focus more on writing, which I unfortunately cannot do any of these days. And that actually causes me a lot of frustration, because some of this stuff, I believe, just has to be communicated with the written word, because if the podcast is getting thwarted and the social media is getting thwarted, maybe that's the way to go about it, because those can be widely published and shared and people can read at their own speed. They don't have to feel like they're committing to an hour-long podcast. They don't have to engage fully with my viewpoint and how that has developed over the years to be able to understand what I'm talking about. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the right way to do this. So I hope you'll all be patient with me, but I totally get it. If you want the show 5 days a week and the changes that are going to happen and the sporadic nature of the next few weeks is too much for you, do what you have to do. And I would not blame you, because I understand that when people pay for something, they want the thing they paid for. And if it's not, and if that's what you believe you paid for and it's not that anymore, then I totally get it. Dan Wright says, Chris, did you see Russia fined Google $10,000,000 for censoring the Kremlin? Yes, I did. I think that is hilarious. There is absolutely no way to ever pay that off, obviously. So that means that Google will have to be something else, which is their butler. Google has to be Russia's butler. Google is the United States. The military industrial I should not say the United States. Google is the regime and nothing more than the regime. So Russia is suing the regime. Trump will be suing the regime. Everybody's going to be suing the regime. Trump said the other day that seizures from the cartels will be used to pay restitutions. I expect that the seizures from the big tech companies will be used to pay restitutions to those people who were censored. That's how things should be. Dan Wright then says, Chris, please read that headline. All right. I think that I said the thing that you wanted me to say. Guys, don't tell me to read things. I'm not your monkey. Here we go. Sarborn put a clip up. President Trump has just started his shift as a garbage man. A funny post. They have a picture of Trump driving around in the seat of a garbage truck, a white truck. I guess that must be a garbage truck. You can't tell from the frame. I might as well put it on screen because this takes 2 seconds. We're going to get plenty of memes. We know what that is. We do know what that is.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
By the way, no offense, Dan Wright, but when people tell me to do things, I'm immediately like, there is absolutely no way I'm going to do the thing you just ordered me to do. All right. Where are we? So, Reddit. Twitter Reddit. One particular goal, according to a user of the Harris Walls campaign Discord server, is to get campaign volunteers to swarm the site and block community notes we don't like. The volunteers that maybe used to go door to door are now just working online to manipulate social media. That is what their actual campaign volunteers do and are being directed to do by the campaign. Prior to Musk's purchase of Twitter, the site's management was known for capriciously removing information and regularly banning users in a way that employed a double standard that heavily disfavored conservative opinion. Musk, a major free speech advocate, sought to institute a more neutral way to deal with misleading tweets, and the community notes system was born. Select users who signed up for the program could propose notes to be added to tweets showing that the information was wrong, misleading, or required important context. Other users can then read the proposed notes and vote on whether they are accurate or needed. And if the proposed notes get enough favorable votes, they get appended to the post permanently. Throughout this campaign, Harris Walls official accounts have been remarkable conduits for disinformation and have regularly provided dishonest presentations of the Trump-Vance campaign. The Harris campaign's X accounts have been so bad that even CNN fact checker Daniel Dale, who has been very harsh on Trump for several years, wrote an entire column highlighting the errors and dishonesty. So they are manipulating the community notes. There we go. And the rest of the article is just about how fake they are. So they're manipulating community notes. They're manipulating Reddit. What else are they manipulating? I suppose that next we will hear potentially TikTok. Facebook and Instagram seem like they're kind of out of the discussion at this point. I would gather TikTok. They've all done the same thing. Maybe we are just having reruns of 2020 for the newbies around who've never heard these stories before. Maybe it's enough with those stories from 2020 with Twitter files layered on top. And now this, maybe that is enough, hopefully. And again, you guys got to understand, I sound fired up about these things, maybe. The entire point is to change minds and then change behavior as a result of changing minds. That's what the false reality was built for, okay? That is how they let us into the false reality. It is our behaviors in reality prime that change reality prime itself as a result of the false reality projection. So you have to work backwards through that in order to get out, which means you have to change your mind and then allow the behavior to follow. If you just understand that they are lying about politics and you change your mind from one party to another, but keep everything else the same, all you've done is switch brands. You actually have to change your mind about the important things that lead you to act in different ways in your life. And invariably, that process, when followed, does bring you to God. That's what's at the bottom of that process, which is why it's so very important. Pardon me, just checking the chat real quick. And let's continue on to one of my favorite subjects, which is color revolutions. And let's check out good old Norm Eisen. This is a Substack called Truth Over News by Jeff Carlson and Hans Mankey. Now, both of these guys are somewhere between Uniparty right normies and normie MAGA, okay? Like good, but normie. So there's only so far you can go with it in my mind, but hey, good work here. Not trying to cast aspersions. I just wish that people would focus on what's true. Like there's no way Joe Biden received 81 million real lawful American votes, and therefore other things are necessarily different, and then build all the thoughts off that. But we'll take what we can get, right? We're beggars and grovelers. Democrats plan for color revolution, truthovernews.org from today. Feels like there's been a notable shift among Democrats in the last month, a recent sense of fatalism, or perhaps just simple resignation to what appears to be an inevitable Trump win. But as it turns out, there are some Democrats who have been preparing for this potential outcome for at least the last year. One of those people is Norm Eisen, and it looks like he's up to his old lawfare and color revolution tricks again. Now, see, the thing is, they have come so close to understanding what is going on. And if they just were not normies, it would all have been put together right in that very sentence. They are simply resigned to what appears to be an inevitable Trump win. So they are observing properly what is coming in, but without the foundational understanding that this shit is fake, it leads to a wrong conclusion. If you understood that this was fake and observed that thing, you would then have to think, maybe this is what these people are trying to do. Now, could there be a reason why they would be trying to do it? Yes, there could be. What could that reason be? Well, let's see what their priorities are. How do they maintain control over the country? Well, they use media, the manipulation of media, propaganda, and censorship to influence people's reputations and control anyone who is corrupt or compromised. And in order to create more of those people, they will corrupt and compromise people. How? By playing to their base nature, taking advantage of their various vices and addictions, whatever it is. And most people have those things. I had those things. I still have remnants of those things. I don't believe I allow them to control me anymore. I have replaced them occasionally with different ones, but that's the strategy. So that's part one. Then they take advantage of people economically because, of course, they control the currency and they control economies because and compromised or corrupted, and you want money because you are a scientific materialist who wants to acquire things from the world, then it's even easier because you'll just accept whatever it is. They have this thing over you. There's a bunch of stuff you want. You avoid the punishment. You get all the treats. Everything's great. And then ultimately they have the military. So they control all those things. Those things have to be removed. All of that has to be removed. They keep this stuff going because people don't realize what the real game is that's being played. And the real game has to be understood, it has to be mastered, and then it has to be played against them so that those weapons can be taken away and turned around against them. It does not work anymore when people abandon shame and no longer allow shame to be used against them. I really do believe that is not the bottom. Of course, we're never going to get all the way to the bottom. We're never going to understand everything and what it means. But man, the effect of shame in a world that is based on nihilism, scientific materialism, atheism, reputation, all of these abstractions and baubles that are ultimately worthless. If a world is guided by that, then it is going to be primarily based on reputation, and the primary destroyer of reputation is shame. Let's continue with our friend Norm Eisen of the Brookings Institution. Yeah, they know. They should know that the regime is planning for a Donald Trump win. It says right here that's what they're planning for. And if the regime controls elections, if we can accept that the regime controls elections, and elections are not how the leaders of countries are determined, then the fact that they are planning for an election to go one way means that they want the election to go that way. For whatever reason, maybe I haven't said it cleanly enough. That's what it is. And that's what we're seeing. And the narrative suggests that's what we're seeing. And Joe Biden tanking the Kamala campaign on the garbage comment so that Kamala didn't even have to say it herself. Give me a break. By the way, what does it mean that they will call us Nazis, but garbage is too low? Like some Nazis aren't garbage? That is the necessary logical implication of what they're saying. We should make them actually support that sentiment. Some Nazis are not garbage, according to Kamala and the regime. Someday someone will clip that out. He said some Nazis aren't garbage. You guys are the ones committed to that belief because you didn't care that there were Ukrainian Nazis, and you haven't bothered figuring out who the actual Nazis were working with in the first place. The man responsible for virtually all of the legal attacks on President Trump now has a new activist group. Although it has many of the same players, and they're preparing for an assault on a second Trump presidency. Eisen, a Brookings Senior Fellow, Obama's former White House ethics czar and ambassador to Czechoslovakia during the Velvet Revolution, has been behind the ongoing lawfare that has targeted Trump for years. Eisen was one of the primary forces behind the first impeachment of Trump and is also the co-founder of leftist nonprofit Crew, or Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Common color revolution strategy. We've talked about this in most particularly the Navalny episodes. Navalny's group was an anti-corruption group. They always call it an anti-corruption group. Eisen played a lead role in Democrats' pre-2020 election war games, which predicted a remarkably accurate contested election scenario that ended unfavorably for Trump. Of particular note in regards to his current efforts, Eisen is also the author of the highly influential Color Revolution Manual, The Democracy Playbook. How about that? The Color Revolution Manual is called The Democracy Playbook, Our Democracy. This is what they mean. The society created through color revolutions. Again, they notice it in 2020 as well. And hey, man, maybe these guys are just too subtle for me and I'm not getting it, but it predicted a remarkably accurate contested election scenario. How did they do it? In 2016, Trump did not give them what they had planned because his narrative control was complete and he had the belief of the country on his side. In 2020, they planned something else, and Donald Trump did not give it to them that time either. He made their win look ridiculously large and then didn't take the actions they expected him to take. So that all of the things they did, like the very violent insurrection and saying the big lie and how Trump wouldn't have a peaceful transfer of power, all of those things were made to look absurd in the public consciousness. People understand that all of that was absurd. Most people even understand that the January 6th very violent insurrection was bullshit. Eisen's latest venture, State Democracy Defenders Action, bills itself as bringing together a bipartisan all-star team of experts in safeguarding democracy and ominously claims they, quote, help shape the long-term strategy to defeat election denial and its logical outgrowth, American autocracy. Autocracy with an A, by the way. You have to understand it's not our democracy anymore. It's their autocracy, starting with preparing for a vigorous response to whatever 2025 and beyond may bring. Their site claims that SDDA will fill 3 key gaps in the fight against election sabotage and autocracy by going on offense against democracy deniers who break the law, including through our innovative program of outside public support for criminal prosecutions. Oh, these commies have started a tip line. The group says they will work with national, state, and local allies across the country to defend in real time the foundation of our democracy, free and fair elections. So I imagine that Norm Eisen is attempting to replicate himself. And what they did with the J6 sham committee, what they did with the Trump impeachment, what they did with all the various Trump indictments and lawsuits, what they did to respond to Project 2025, what they continue doing with Jack Smith's briefs. All I can think about is Mike Johnson's package combined with Jack Smith's briefs. All of this stuff from them, Norm Eisen was directly involved in. It's possible that he just wants more people involved in that. And maybe he's going to oversee the larger project. And maybe that is a faster workflow. I'm sure that they're using AI and they need people, attorneys and whatnot, to check all that. I imagine what they're trying to do is take that model and port it to every one of these election denier cases that we're going to see so that they have that response in back of Mark Elias's apparatus. And that's how they're going to get it done, I suppose, in the courts. Hey, are those courts legitimate? Are they valid in your mind? If they are not valid in your mind, are you saying that? Or are you saying, gosh, I hope the courts will side with us. I'm really mad at this court for not being nice to us. Don't get mad. It's an illegitimate government. Say it's an illegitimate government. Make it very clear to everybody that's an illegitimate government. Hey, commie, cool. Oh, your court decided that way? Cool, commie. Well, just wait. Stop giving them credit. Oh, yeah. I'm screaming mad about what the TV said about the courts. The group says they will. Oh, no, I already read that. As we'll see, this sounds like the formation of a color revolution. Well, guys, it's been going on for many years now. Central to their efforts are what the group calls their 10 principles, which can appear innocuous with a casual glance, but are actually representative of neocon, never Trump talking points, and globalist goals. Well, that's awfully weird for a leftist institution like the Brookings Institution and people who want to contest Trump. Aren't those generally Democrats? No, they're globalists, which is far more important. So globalist goals, the neocon never Trump part, fine, but it's the global regime part. When one reads these principles with an eye toward a future Trump presidency, their words take on an entirely different meaning. The group's first principle states that they believe in the foundational idea of rule of law, but that claim is immediately followed by a weaponized declaration that is obviously aimed at Trump. Let's see if we can just go to these 10 principles, and we'll go through this ourselves rather than going through their analysis. Although, by all means, go read their analysis. Okay. It's not American just to be negative. That's not our way. Yes, we sound the alarm, but then we solve the problem. I can't believe how these people talk. They are talking to children 100% of the time. Man, a friend of mine was, oh no, wait. Yeah, G Money posted this. That's what it was. Let's see if we can find this post. Now I'm getting very disappointed. Where did this thing go? Ah, here it is. Hold. Yes, I'm still here for those just listening. I'm pulling up a post very slowly. And I'm doing my best not to say at least when I think about it. The rest of the time it just happens. Sir, it's come to our attention that the plebeians don't understand they're being rugged. Poppycock, we've made it exceedingly obvious. What should we do to make it absolutely clear this is a humiliation ritual? We could give them stickers and pins like they're second graders in the Prussian education system. No, too on the nose, but fine, we're desperate. Sir, too much? They know everything is fake now and they're blaming us for not telling them sooner? No, sir, spit it out, man. They're posting selfies with the stickers and pins, sir. My God. Accurate. Sorry, it's accurate. I wish it was another way. It's not another way, though. And wishing it was another way does not make it the other way. And it's not nicer. Let's just understand how it is and deal with how it is. Let's get back to the defenders of democracy. The State Democracy Defenders Action. We believe in the foundational idea of rule of law. Our country cannot be led by anyone who believes they are not accountable to our Constitution or who repeatedly and persistently violates civil and criminal statutes. That is disqualifying and contrary to the principle of rule of law. Well, okay, you're welcome to believe that. You guys inverted the law. You have abused the law using what you believe to be passable technicalities because the courts you also staffed and then abused will go along with it is adhering to the rule of law. That is not adhering to the rule of law, nor is it adhering to the Constitution, the original Constitution, not the inverted one. We believe in truth, fact, science, and evidence. Okay, congratulations. Do you have any evidence that Donald Trump had ever done anything remotely appropriate with E. Jean Carroll? No, evidence was not required in that situation because believe women. None of this is required ever because the court of public opinion is what matters. That is why we were supposed to have jury trials, not like federal agencies that just decide for themselves. They are judge, jury, and executioner for violating an agency policy that was not even passed by law. That's what we have had. That is the situation we have had. These people don't care at all. We believe that the right to vote in free and fair elections is the foundation of our democracy. Really? Well, then why don't we have those? Those of us who embrace democracy must peacefully but vigorously oppose authoritarianism at the ballot box and otherwise. Well, yes, Norm, we are doing that. We believe in civil discourse about our differences. If you did that, then you wouldn't be trying to censor people. Let me just see what Brookings has to say about censorship. I always like to, when I think of new things that I have not dug on before, I want to, it's brookings.edu. I always forget. I always think it's going to be org. Let me see what they have to say. Oh, so many articles about ChatGPT, about Section 230, including with ChatGPT. Let me see. Censor. Wait, let's just see what they have to say about X, formerly Twitter. It's crazy how many times I suppose you all know, but how many times articles say X, formerly Twitter, and I'm not even just making that up on my own. So anticipating ambiguities of Section 230. Advancing community data justice. What in the world is that? I'm not going down that road. Foreign influence and interference. I shouldn't have posted X, formerly Twitter. That pulls up too many articles. Sometimes the funniest search terms are not the best. Pakistan's censorship models. Wow, they're complaining about video game censorship. That's amazing. Censorship in China is a problem. Is filtering censorship all the way back to 2010. The great silencing. Wow, they sure thought different things back then. The Kremlin's disinformation playbook goes to Beijing. Okay, so Brookings does a lot of work on that, but according to the State Democracy Defenders organization of superheroes, they believe in civil discourse. Accordingly, we strongly oppose political violence. These are the color revolutionists telling you they are opposed to political violence. This is a total inversion within the false reality, and people believe this bullshit. We believe in the importance of an independent, nonpartisan civil service. We believe in the importance of ethical government. We believe in the United States leadership in the world. We believe in an economy that brings prosperity for all. You're literally communists. We believe in a free press and the First Amendment. We believe in equality and civil rights for all and the importance of American diversity. I mean, that is an admission of being communists. But look, this is the neocon part. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, she is a Russia deranged, she has Putin derangement syndrome. John Dean was a communist attorney who was intimately involved with the Richard Nixon takedown. Bill Kristol started the Project for a New American Century. He is one of the most prominent neocons. His father, Irving Kristol, was one of the forefathers of neoconservatism, which is just American militaristic American Bolshevism. Asha Rangappa, who is a regular guest on cable news. Norm Ornstein, I think he's an attorney as well. I remember I used to mix him up with Norm Eisen, which is not a difficult mistake. Wow, look at this guy go. Oh, he's at the American Enterprise Institute. They call themselves conservatives. So there is a lot of neoconservatism here. That really is more neoconservative than Brookings is. And maybe that's why they split this off, to get the neocon establishment involved in the Norm Eisen game. This is even more suggestive of the Uniparty. So we have the neoconservatives hiring the Brookings color revolutionist. It's not even hidden anymore. It's just right out there in the open. They believe in a free press and the First Amendment, which is kind of a restating of believing in civil discourse. All this while censoring, because Russia bad. And neoconservatives welcoming diversity, equality, and civil rights. I thought that they were conservatives. Aren't those all just abject violations of conservative political and economic priorities? Okay. So something to keep an eye on. I'm sure that we will talk about them quite a lot as this period continues to evolve. I mean, guys, it really is all about the post-election period. You know, it's not a real election. It is a narrative battle. At that point, the narrative battle changes, and the evidence of one side being justified in that narrative battle will be, look at the election results. You're telling the big lie. No evidence, baseless claims. We're just going to hear the same things we heard in 2020 but at a fevered pitch now because they know they're not going to get away with it this time. And it's not because the election is too big to rig and we're going to have big numbers. It's because it's narratively too big to rig. The public consciousness understands our elections are stolen. They are rigged against Donald Trump, not just against Republicans, but specifically Donald Trump. And they will learn that again after, as the neoconservatives out themselves immediately. And then the Con Inc. op says, you know, these guys do have a point about a few things. I'm a very strong Trump supporter, but they do have a point about a few things. We got to let these procedures play out. If I can tell you what they're going to hear, and then they do exactly what I say, is it believable at that point? Or do we still just have to keep waiting for the TV to tell us what has happened? Because that is the alternative. You have to decide for yourself, okay, I am convinced. And now that I am convinced, I will not speak to this issue in a different way. And I will never be quiet about what I've been convinced of in the face of lies.
Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it.
Say it. Let's look back at Normeisen for just a second here, because I want to, maybe we can get a hint on where exactly they're going to be going with these things. Look at that. Right on the front page, they've got the very violent insurrection. On the info op side of things, Biden is a pedophile sign over on the side. That is really very, very interesting that people who absolutely looked over this site many times left that in there. I'm going to have to clip that and meme that or something. That is not something that you can just overlook, I don't believe. All right. So they're doing all the legal case stuff like Mark Elias so far. New No Dictators Declaration seeks to protect freedoms by blocking future abuse of presidential power. Wow. Wow. Oh, I might have to do this on the show tomorrow because we're kind of running out of time today. But they're doing Georgia. They're doing Pennsylvania. I mean, how many ways do we need to have it proved to us that the elections are fake? Okay, let's do some questions on the Substack. Gosh, this stuff is just too good. I might have to just go through this tomorrow. I have to pull this up. I'm just going to read the top of this. U.S. House Representative Jamie Raskin and former Representative Joe Walsh and a coalition of groups from across the ideological spectrum today launched the No Dictators Declaration, a national effort focused on protecting American freedoms by closing loopholes that could allow a president to use vast executive powers to violate constitutional rights. This is from a month ago. I'm sad I missed this. The pillars include limiting the president's ability to declare bogus domestic and foreign emergencies to seize power and bypass congressional legislative authority, restricting the president's ability to use the Insurrection Act to deploy the military on American soil, preventing the adoption of partisan, personal, and ideological loyalty tests, loyalty oaths, and similar authoritarian measures designed to purge the professional civil service and replace qualified workers with unqualified loyalists, ensuring that presidents who abuse their powers to commit crimes can be prosecuted like all other people, constraining the president's ability to use investigative and prosecutorial decisions and resources to pursue vendettas against disfavored people and groups. Every one of those is a violation and usurpation of the constitutional powers. Every one of those violates what the Constitution says the president is allowed to do. What do you want? They don't care about our Constitution. They don't care about, quote unquote, our democracy. Our democracy is their thing. That is the global regime's agenda, our democracy. They describe it as democracy. All it requires for them to call it democracy is to say that they have a majority. If they declare a majority and the people don't say, that's not true, you're not a majority, don't even dare trying to take power over me, I will not obey anything you say, then what difference does it make? They declared they had a majority and everyone was like, yeah, all right, I guess. That's what is really happening. That's what's really happening. So how does that get stopped? Our democracy worldwide, their agenda. And then after they say, well, we have a majority there, that makes it a democracy. That makes whatever we do something you voted for. That is what they say. Then they make a body like the United Nations. They just centralize one more time. And they say, well, the United Nations has 170 nations or 180 nations, however many signatories. It's not all the countries, but it's most. However many there are, if a majority of them go along with the regime agenda, then again, it's our democracy. So all they have to do is export their stolen elections, this system, color revolutions, destabilization, infiltration, control, then people reject it. Destabilization starts over again. They do that with fake elections. They take over each one of those countries, and all of a sudden, every one of those countries votes the tyranny of the majority. Those countries vote to take away the rights of the other countries. Just like the quote unquote democracy here is quote unquote voting to take away the rights of the people. Same thing over and over again. That is our democracy. Once stolen elections are the norm and no one cares about stopping them because they'll just continue voting, then you've given up. You say, okay, I consent to your democracy. And that is what the American people continue to say over and over and over again. And I'm sorry that that hurts people's feelings. There's nothing I can do about that other than lie about what it is. It is what it is. Okay, let's go to Substack and get comments and questions. I will try not to go terribly long like I did last week. Looking at the chat. Talk amongst yourselves, everybody. I'll be right here. Okay. Damn, that's a lot of comments. I might be in trouble. Hopefully it's just some back and forth. Let's go oldest first. Jonathan. Spooner's book, Trial by Jury, is continuing to amaze me. There's a reason his writings are intentionally relegated to obscurity among the majority of Americans. And he's talking about Lysander Spooner, a man who is called a radical, but was just using first principles to write about how actually American society wasn't all enamored of the form of government and what the Union was doing in the Civil War. All the things that we are told in our history books just didn't happen to be true. But hey, man, we'll just pretend they're true because we're so attached to mythology. The way we make the mythology true is by understanding that right now in our society, it's not true. And unless we are able to bring it from history back to the present in a true way, then the mythology is just mythology. There is a true way, by the way. We're just not experiencing it. So when people are defending the false reality layer on top of the history they have been indoctrinated with, we're really missing the boat. People are like, how dare you say that about the Constitution? What do you mean? Some of the founders were saying the exact same things about the Constitution. Anybody could know that simply by reading or listening to someone read the Federalist Papers. Now, I know not everybody has time to do homework all day and all night. And I'm not saying that you're bad or stupid people for not having read it. I'm just saying the proof is right there. And upon reading them, it becomes immediately impossible to suggest that all the founders agreed the Constitution was the best possible document that had ever been created, as we are told. It is not that. And most of them didn't want to ratify it at all and were forced to. I shouldn't say most, many. His basic thesis is that the concept of a trial by jury is the actual means by which a free society obtains and maintains its liberty. Yes, amazing. We were just talking about that. He explores the historical origin in the Magna Carta and how the parties involved in that significant charter recognize that a jury trial effectively neutered a king's supremacy. The Pope at the time was appealed to by King John, and he condemned the charter and specifically the jury trial aspect as being heretical upheaval of the divine right of kings. How about that? A trial by one's peers. What is a trial by one's peers if it is expanded to the whole of society? That is the court of public opinion. It would also be a democracy, depending on the standards by which a jury could convict. Put simply, a trial by jury, effectively trial by country, is an appeal to 12 random male peers to adjudicate not only the merits of the case against the accused, but the basis for them even being accused in the first place. In other words, the law is as much on trial as the defendant. As such, a properly formed jury has the ability to immediately strike an unlawful law from the books simply by not being willing to enforce it. Man, they sure didn't know what they were talking about back then. Our system is so much better. These ideas were relegated to the dustbin of history because we found out that they just weren't good enough. Nope, that's not the reason. These ideas were kept from us because the regime wanted to take advantage of us and exploit us over and over again. And they understood this system was the exact way to do it, which is why they forced us to accept it. In Lowry's soft war framing, by the way, we're going to go through the Articles of the Confederation. Maybe I should have just done that today instead. But significantly more based. That was the government, the Constitution after the revolution. And the Constitution was then ratified in 1789. And has been inverted since. Okay. In Lowry's software framing, abstract power, law, meets actual power, people. Yes, again, perfect. That dynamic, same as always. Lowry's soft war is so relevant to me because it exactly mirrors the theory I developed around the party of false decorum that had nothing to do with military history. He's a major in the Space Force and doing MIT work. I didn't have to know about Bitcoin. I didn't have to know about the military, but our view on abstract versus real power is exactly the same. I elucidate that in the social sphere, the world that I know. With a proper understanding of a jury's responsibility, which courts strive aggressively to prevent, mention jury nullification when in a jury pool and see how long you last. A jury's responsibility, which courts strive aggressively to prevent, mention jury nullification when in a jury pool and see how long you last. I'm not sure I exactly understand what you're saying. It is easy to see how going forward, it almost doesn't matter who sits in the halls of Congress because they can pass whatever law they want, however extreme and bogus, and we can simply just say nah and refuse to enforce it. How about that, everybody? It's only the court of public opinion rather than all of this bullshit that we just appropriated from British royalty. We essentially are still a British colony. Maybe there was a period where we weren't, but then we just systematically sold our country back. And it's not just the British royals. It's not like dumbass King Charles is telling us what to do. It's the British Crown. It's the City of London, which is, by the way, the global regime. Regaining a proper understanding for the role of a jury in a free country is probably the most important thing going forward. Given his book is rather long, not pamphlet-sized, I might attempt to condense it into a 2 or 3 page PDF for easier dispersion. And Jonathan, my friend, if you have a PDF, please send it my way And if we want to try that, we can just stick it through an AI and you can tell me whether or not it accurately represents what you read. Wendy, hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on about why? Sorry, guys. Man, I've been doing too much reading. What are your thoughts about why Trump has been encouraging us to vote early? And I would just want to get through the rest of this conversation so I can address the rest of it. In case they decide to put a glitch in the system, it happens. Maria, that is a thought. A lot of people have expressed that. I don't believe that is true. When he says, except we know they're going to do all kinds of things to steal it, his fake election. Nothing has been changed since 2020 that we know of anyway to fix our elections. So what is the point of voting early? I wonder. Many people have been wondering the same thing. I'm guessing Chris has already spoken to this on a show, but I haven't caught his answer if he has. I have spoken to this on shows. We just spoke to it on Devolution Power Hour on Saturday night. Maria says, I know nothing has been changed since 2020 election. We were all aware of it. I can only pray and hope for a better outcome. You can do more than that. You can understand that our elections are fake and not recognize the government in any way whatsoever. You can still abide by God's law. You can still follow the demands of the Constitution and then defend yourself on those bases and demand a jury of your peers. We got to do it the old-fashioned way. We're not just going to beat the election system by voting as hard as possible. Okay. So let's focus for a second on the purpose of voting early. I believe the purpose of voting early is the same as encouraging ballot harvesting, the same as Trump going out to all these various podcasts, the same about various appeals to women, various positions he's taken, the same direct appeals to Black Americans, to Hispanic Americans, direct appeals to business leaders by visiting all the economic clubs and putting forward his America First agenda in front of those audiences, dominating on all the various platforms. He is taking away every single narrative route that could possibly exist to explain a massive Kamala Harris win. Okay. He didn't give them what they wanted in 2016. He didn't give them what they wanted in 2020. What they want this time is a small Trump win. They can then delegitimize and attempt to disqualify him, hold him out of office. If they are not able to do that, they might be able to, if they're not able to win the election, which I don't think they will be able to do, they might still be able to hold him out of office. If not, they will have thoroughly delegitimized him the same way they did the first time around with the Russia hoax. They are happy to do that as long as they can keep the election apparatus in place and fill up down ballot and in localities with uniparty members that will subvert the Donald Trump presidency. And all we will have will be the celebratory moments we have, which should just be considered masturbatory moments on the night of 11/5 or whenever they tell us that Donald Trump won. We'll be like, this is amazing for a few days. And then we'll realize that's not what they cared about because they're already marching forward on something else while Con Inc. and all the rest of them are telling us, no, that's not how it is. Just everybody be patient. I will say be patient. Don't go to civil war. I will not say be patient. Don't cast your judgment on the fakeness of this process. Call it out as fake. Let everybody know it's not even a real election. And saying that, oh, they stole it because of this or stole it because of that, it's not good enough. You already found out that, about how it's not good enough. Are people going to make the same mistake again? Well, they are certainly winding up to make that mistake again in the exact same way by groveling and trembling over the results, over what the TV says about a fake election. The point is, narratively speaking, to close off all the escape routes for the uniparty. They will not be able to explain a big Kamala Harris win with any justification whatsoever. It wasn't women. It wasn't young people. It wasn't Black people. It wasn't Hispanics. It wasn't that he didn't connect on social media. It wasn't that he didn't connect on podcasts. It wasn't that he didn't connect in the business community. It wasn't that he didn't connect with unions. There's no explanation anymore for Kamala Harris having a big victory. It has been taken off the table. What they can give you is a Donald Trump tiny victory. They'll say he didn't win the popular vote, but he won the Electoral College. Or maybe he won the popular vote by a very little bit. Whatever it is, that's the election analysis article we went through yesterday. Ridiculous. Closing off all the narrative routes is the point of pursuing all of these strategies. Make it abundantly clear to absolutely everybody that there's no way Kamala Harris could ever possibly win a real election against Donald Trump. That is the entire purpose of all of it. Expose the election system. That just comes as a result of everyone knowing there's no way that Trump could lose a real one, especially not in a blowout. And so if we see a Kamala blowout, it meets absolutely all the goals and all the requirements, which is why I think that is what's going to happen. That's not because I'm a black pillar and think we're going to lose. It's because I think absolutely everything is 100% in control by the good guys. You cannot get to the position I have without believing that. And my belief in that does not require Q, and it doesn't require anything else. And it is forward looking beyond the horizon. So yeah, I don't know. That is the best of all worlds. And man, if there is a different path, and I described a different path last week, I think, or maybe the week before, where maybe this just gets dragged out for so long that everyone realizes the elections are stolen while we're waiting for a result, and we just get the best of all worlds, and then everyone knows that obviously Trump is the winner. The mission is not complete until the election apparatus is torn down and replaced in a way of our choosing, not with what they grant us at the beginning, because that, again, could just be walking us right into the Great Reset, because they want to take the election system down too. They want everything decided by AI. We do not want that. By the way, AI is the ultimate form of centralization and their false god at the same time. It is the worst of all worlds. And I'm not saying that AI is inherently evil. I am saying that is what they are using it to be and for. Tammy says, Trump was funny last night for a while. Then he said, we need to get serious. Somewhere right after he said that after the election, we need to talk about some things. Get on with fixing our country, etc. Did you pick up on that? What are your thoughts? I did not pick up on that because I didn't watch that speech last night. Let me make sure that I have the right one. I will do my best. After the election, we are going to have a different kind of get together where we talk about all the great things we are doing. Wonderful. I hope that members of the truth community are included in that, and we are not subjected to this ridiculous and retarded, insulting info op of the Avengers. Whatever is necessary, all good, right? I'm on board. All good. But don't tell me that 6 mostly liars are going to be our new God kings instead of the one good guy. I am trying now to find this video quickly. I imagine it should be on Donald Trump's channel from last night. Oh, wait, I went to YouTube so that I could use the transcript feature. Let's just go to RSBN like she said. Hopefully I'll be able to see the one last night. The problem with RSBN's feeds is that they leave the live feed going forever. So it just keeps going over and over and over, and you can't do the right things as far as time is concerned. Okay, so Allentown, full speech. I'm going to 42 minutes. I'm hoping that that is where we can find this. If it's not, I'm just going to go with your comments and we'll respond, and then we're going to have to move on. I'm going to put this at 1.25 just to speed it up a little bit, because I would hate to listen to a big chunk that isn't the right thing. Here we go.
And I'll say, gee, I love those rallies. I don't know, it invigorates all of us, right? Everyone here. And we're only going to be doing them for like a few more days. And then we have a different kind of get together. We're going to have a get together where we're going to talk about all the good things we're doing. It's going to be a very positive thing. But this is something that's been a special journey for all of us. I think for all of us. You have people that have been to hundreds of these. You have people that have been, you have the front row Joes, they've been to everyone. I think, look at these guys. They've been to everyone.
All right. All right. That's great. I really appreciate you highlighting that for me. That is very good. I'm sending that to my little squad right now. Gosh, I hope something like that happens and he actually includes the American people. And I hope that there's a way to do that. You know, I was a philosophy major in college and studied Greek philosophy and studied, the foundations of democracy back then. And it was always understood that you couldn't actually make a democracy function, a direct democracy where the people were voting on things in the moment. I wonder if it's possible that we had a constitution that was strong enough that would allow, and maybe the first one, if it was properly adhered to, and hopefully maybe something slightly before the first one, or remove the really strong Federalists from that discussion and let the anti-Federalists win all those arguments and put that in place. Maybe that would be the best of all worlds. If there was something like that, and then there was some way to include people, it might be a proof of work system that simultaneously also proves stake by proving work. Maybe there's some way that something more geared toward the direct democracy could work. Maybe the people have an opportunity to weigh in on that. Maybe there's going to be a real election after this fake election. Once people realize this is fake, that is something I contemplated back in January of 2021. And I thought and suggested that that date should be Patriots Day of that year. Still looking out for that. It aligns with the timeline that Trump has said before, that America's 250th birthday party is going to start in May of 2025. I'm looking for this sort of thing to take 6 months to resolve. And I've said that a bunch of times over the last couple of years. So for people who think this is just going to end next week, I mean, maybe you're right? I think about this stuff all the time. I try to adhere to a really rigid form of skepticism and a rigid epistemology, and try to be consistent in my principles and try to remove my own bias as much as I can by arguing for myself the opposite point of view and really spending some time seeing if I can support it. I'm not going to always get it right, but man, I really don't think that this is all going to just be wrapped up in a bow on 11/5, and it's not the end of the world, okay? These people are planning for the thing you are begging to happen, to see happen, right? If Norm Eisen and the Democrat establishment and the Republican establishment, if the full uniparty and the judicial system and the lawfare and the censorship and all of that is planning for the TV to announce a Donald Trump win, it's not just going to feel like you want it to feel immediately. Okay. We had these same emotions in 2020. I got rugged hard in 2020. I don't want to get rugged again. So I'm thinking about all the stuff we've learned, all the principles we should be adhering to. What does that line of reasoning bring me to? This is what it has brought me to. We are going to win no matter what. I'm 100% confident of that. Okay. So we're in it for the long haul, one way or another. We just keep living. There's still a more perfect union to create, and that's going to take a lot of work, mostly demolition work of the imperfect union. And we should all be committed to that project. It doesn't mean we have to focus our entire lives on it. We can't have our families and have successful businesses and do other things. It just means we have to do this too, which is our responsibility as people. And when we abandon that responsibility, thinking that the fullness of our responsibility is screaming online and then pressing buttons on an iPad, well, we've missed something. It would just go right back to how it already is. Tammy says he was on a roll last night. Anyway, I can't even figure out the live stream link. Anyway, Tammy, you did great. We don't need to go through that. Dynamite, this is a long theory. Guys, I've said this before. I will read these comments. I'll go through them, but please try to keep this stuff short because there's a limit to how many minutes I can just read someone's stuff on the air. I have a theory for today. Elon Musk is spending a lot of time in Pennsylvania lately, apparently campaigning. So the DoD's biggest contractor and uber-rich computer genius Elon is now campaigning. I contend, I bet you're saying he is there for another reason. I'm certain that's true. Trump keeps mentioning Elon and his project about election integrity and whatever. Maybe they are tracking something there. Maybe he is just there as a threat. The Michigan rally where Trump was 2 hours late and arrived to the Undertaker theme song was explained by Trump as meeting with very important people. After the Rogan interview, Trump met with someone who is also in Texas, Jeff Bezos. Bezos then announced no support of a candidate through his newspaper, Washington Post. Now, Dynamite, I got to see you substantiate that Bezos claim. I know that someone from Blue Origin was there. That is a Bezos company, though Bezos in his op-ed said he did not personally meet with them. Now, Blue Origin is a bullshit space company, just like SpaceX is a bullshit space company. So you've got Elon and Bezos connected in that way as well. Bezos then announced blah, blah, blah. Washington Post, yes. Amazon Web Services handles a massive amount of internet traffic. During the Rogan interview, Trump describes how votes performed on a machine go up to heaven and back through a web-based service. I feel like these are linked and possibly coordinated. Conclusion, this may be a sting operation to gather as much evidence as possible. Could be wrong, but trying to connect some dots that map back to something plausible. Bad actors are often given the opportunity to flip. Thoughts? I think these bad actors were given the opportunity to flip a long time ago, or that them being on the other side in the first place was the op. Okay. This is the PayPal mafia. They are either good together or bad together, I would gather. But I think you are onto something really excellent. I think you are right. I think that Don Billy just wrote an article today about the ISPs. We've been talking about the ISPs. All of this could play in together. Maybe they are putting the last pieces in place of this puzzle. We talk about Elon's communication transmission system, energy capture. I guess if you are creating energy, like, are you creating energy when you transform natural gas into electricity or heating or whatever, or heat or whatever? I think that the technical answer is no, you are not creating energy. But we're talking about essentially at home nuclear energy storage and creation, in quotes, energy transmission, communication transmission. All of this is software. The IP address, the Amazon Web Services, the great cloud in the sky. Maybe I've suggested many times this looks exactly like the Twitter model. Maybe Amazon Web Services has been seized. Maybe all of Amazon has been seized. I see something with the Postal Service in the future. All of these things, I think you're exactly on the right path. To the extent any of this has been involved in election interference, and it has, you already have justification for the seizures. So I think this is wonderful. Jonathan says the only issue I have with the gather as much evidence as possible. Line of thinking is that at this point, we already have more than enough to absolutely steamroll not just any legal battle, but the narrative one as well. At some point, they, the good they, need to shit or get off the pot. 100%. This is not even a real election. It's not about that evidence. It can be about evidence of people cheating. They're still violating the law. That's fine. But it's not evidence that we need to win a real election. If the basic tenets of the devolution theory are accurate, then Trump had enough evidence to justify devolving the government. Therefore, they already have enough evidence to do whatever they need to do regarding justice. The delay would then be a matter of allowing people to come slowly around to the truth. And also, all of this could be a story, including the devolution thing and everything else, because ultimately, this is not how the leaders of the country, leaders of nations are decided. They're decided in the court of public opinion. All of this could be a grand psyop that we are participants in to move the court of public opinion to this new direction. And then again, looking forward, we have to make sure that that is the good direction. And we are not just getting tricked and dog walked into the Great Reset, the biggest rug of all time, which is why we must remain skeptical, which is why we don't grovel, which is why we do not choose our God kings, or even worse, allow them to be chosen for us. Hello, JD Vance. Sorry, JD Vance. You might be the most excellent guy of all time, but You are anointed as our next God King. Instantly reject. That is the answer. The answer is no. Don't even try this on me. Not even if you're Donald Trump. Everything about what JD Vance is after that is irrelevant. I don't care how well he performs for a fake election. I also don't care about him going on Rogan. Why is JD Vance always showing up in the same places Donald Trump shows up to give comments after Donald Trump has finished giving comments? And everyone's like, oh, well, Trump must be sending him there. Really? How do you know? Why aren't you skeptical about that? Something, oh, we're just going to say Donald Trump must have done that on purpose again. Okay. Maybe Donald Trump allowed it, but didn't plan it. What then? Maybe someone who is still in Donald Trump's orbit arranges those things so Donald Trump can watch that person operate in conjunction with Con Inc. And then he allows them to do those things. And then he allows those things to be carried out so that he can observe them. Maybe that. How about that? Is that the answer? I don't know. But you can't just assume, well, Donald Trump chose JD Vance, or the committee above Donald Trump chose JD Vance. Therefore, whatever JD Vance does is good. I mean, that's moronic. Chris, 4 more days till election day. I'm nervous and happy all the same, all in the same time. I pray to God that he gets us out of this mess. Our country can't take another 4 years of this leadership. We can all get ourselves out of this mess by no longer participating in the realness of the mess. Can you verify for certain that the things happening on television, the ways our country is being torn down that we are shown on television, are all true? I would submit that you cannot. What we can do is operate in our little spheres. And if we are able to operate in a bigger sphere, by all means, go ahead. But let's focus on the little things. Can we take care of ourselves and get through? Can we spread truth while taking care of ourselves and getting through? Can we spread truth while taking care of ourselves and our families and getting through? If we can do those things, then we can keep going. But prior to that, we need to focus on those things. Terry Hoffman, can't wait to hear about what the secret is between President Trump and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. The president is a pro at trolling. I will agree with that 100%. And I don't know what the secret is. I have talked about it about as much as I can. I have nothing new to add on to that. So I hope that's not what you were asking for. I don't think it was. So yeah, I guess that's it on that. I wanted to say one more thing. Oh, I want to say about JD Vance also. I just found this out today. I didn't realize, because I haven't spent, maybe I just don't remember it from, maybe he didn't mention Vivek. I don't know if he did or not back in his book. I listened to an audio book of his book, so I could have just missed it. And maybe I didn't finish it. I thought it was so inauthentic that it was hard for me to finish it. And that is just another issue that I have with the JD Vance op. But yeah, I don't find him generally authentic. I don't think that he is as genius as people make him out to be. He gives all the most based and red-pilled answers to the questions people talk about on podcasts. And to me, that's basically worthless. So I'm not impressed. Other people are impressed. And if that's the information environment we're dealing with, and he's the best guy ever, all good. But the point is, we don't know that's what's happening. Now, I didn't realize this, but he was best friends with Vivek Ramaswamy in college at Yale at law school, as he was with his wife, Usha Vance now. The three of them were all very best friends. So I didn't know that we all signed up to buy the Vivek and JD Vance package at the same time. Isn't that awfully strange that it's been suggested to us by the television and by people like Tucker Carlson that we need to accept this as some sort of package deal? Vivek was given to us in the primaries, and now JD is our new guy. And again, long-term op, totally possible. Vivek Ramaswamy, the best guy ever. Hey, maybe. Doesn't seem like it to me because he seems totally authentic and like he's part of a TV show. But hey, man, other people have different conclusions. I, my friends, am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I am checking the chat, and Sadis says, I'm weirded out by the Vivek JD Nexus as well. Yeah. I mean, it's very weird. It is very, very weird. And JD was the guy for Peter Thiel, who is maybe a good guy, but shouldn't be trusted. PayPal Mafia again. Yale, the whole Yale thing. Man, I maybe should save this clip. Now I have to, once I mention it, I have to play it. Otherwise, people will be like, what is he saying about the Yale thing? And then people will just assume Skull and Bones. And maybe it's that, but I'm actually quoting a movie. I'm quoting the absolutely wonderful film based on an absolutely wonderful novel. One of my favorite novels, although it is quite disturbing. It is also quite hilarious. American Psycho by my friend Bret Easton Ellis. And then the movie that was made as an adaptation to the book.
What can you tell me about Paul Allen?
I'm at a loss. He was part of that whole Yale thing.
Yale thing?
Yeah, Yale thing.
What do you mean, Yale thing?
Well, I think for one that he was probably a closet homosexual who did a lot of cocaine at Yale thing.
Now, I don't know if JD Vance is part of that Yale thing. JD Vance seems like he would not do a lot of cocaine, but hey, you never know. Vivek sounds like he's on a lot of cocaine, but I talk fast, so I can't really blame him for that. Okay, so that's it then, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up today. I will be back on the podcast tomorrow at the same reasonable time on the same Reasonable Podcast Network. I don't have a network. Masks and lockdowns don't work. They lied to you about a pandemic, and Joe Biden will never be president.
Well,
what?
You know who I am, don't you?
Well, you ain't Fiona Apple, and if you ain't Fiona Apple, I don't give a rat's ass.
Ah!
Not let you down.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
What must be what?
In my mind, that's the end game.
If you're listening for free and would like to support the show, the best way to do that is by signing up for a paid subscription at imyourmoderator.substack.com. You can find the info stream over on Telegram at t.me/veryreasonable. The merch site is cancelcouture.com. And for all my other links, you can visit linktree.com/imyourmoderator. And I'll see you soon down on the range.